Have you ever felt like you're living in a karmic Groundhog Day where you're repeating the same patterns over and over again, day in and day out? Well, you're not imagining it. This eclipse season is like one big cosmic rerun where you're finally going to break free from these repeating cycles. And on March 29th, we'll experience the final eclipse in Aries for roughly 9 years. But before you breathe a sigh of relief, know this, it's going to feel like déjà vu on steroids. This is happening in the exact same position where Mercury and Venus both stationed to go retrograde earlier this month. This is unheard of. This is so rare. And we are going to be having a lot of energy coming back around at the time of this eclipse in a way that's very karmic, fated, synchronistic, and that throws us in the direction that we need to move into by helping us let go of these repeating cycles, let go of the things that have been holding us back for so long. So that unexpected issue that came up very suddenly and unexpectedly in your relationships at the start of this month, coming back around. And this time it has fated implications that will impact your life for years to come. And that thing you said that you wish that you could have taken back in the middle of March, that's coming back to haunt you too. And so you're going to have to deal with that. In this video, we're going to cover everything you need to know to navigate this final eclipse in Aries and this never-ending Aries activation that's been going on all spring so you can align yourself with your destiny and finally move on. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an important astrology update. I post a new video typically every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and if it's not on Saturday, it's a little bit off lately just because I've been dealing with the eclipses, the retrogrades, and all of the wild astrology on my end too. But either way, you don't want to miss an important tutorial or an important astrology update, especially right now during this crazy season we're in. And if you're really getting hit hard this eclipse season, I highly recommend taking advantage of the fact that my Karmic Power of Eclipses workshop is now 50% off through the end of the day on the 30th. This is going to help you to understand not just the eclipses in transit, not just this eclipse season, but all future eclipses. You're also going to learn how to understand the lunar nodes in your birth chart. You're going to learn all about the pre and postnatal eclipses that we are all born with that are very sensitive, karmic, very important areas of the chart that can be life-changing when they're activated during a subsequent eclipse season, just like this one. You're going to learn what it means to have an eclipse in the birth chart at the time or near the time of your birth. And you're also going to learn about the different types of eclipses, the strengths of different eclipses, so you can navigate this for years to come. Again, 50% off. It's only $29. This is not going to last. You're going to want to take advantage of this right now. This is just so that way you can help get through the eclipse season, so you can understand things better, so you can help your friends and family when they need it most. And so again, the link for this is down in the description below, my Karmic Power of Eclipses workshop. So let's get into the energy of this eclipse. This eclipse is kind of spanning the boundaries of Pisces and Aries. And so if you have planets at the end degrees of Pisces or at the first 15 degrees of Aries, this is a wide range where people are going to be impacted by this partial eclipse, this partial solar eclipse in Aries the most. And this is not the biggest, most impactful eclipse energy in and of itself. However, the fact that we are repeating this activation between 9 and 10 degrees in the sign of Aries over and over again throughout the entire month of March, that is significant, especially because those initial activations were when planets were stationing. And so on March 1st, Venus stationed to go retrograde at this exact point of the eclipse. Something would have come up either a few days before, a few days after, or even during that stationary period that will be reflected in what's happening right now during this week and the following week around the time of this solar eclipse. And so what you should look out for is what was going on in your relationships around March 1st. What was going on in terms of your values and maybe reevaluating your values because something came up that was just so in your face that you couldn't ignore it. What was going on for you, maybe involving your finances and material things. What was coming up for you in terms of not just, general relationship dynamics or your love relationships, but maybe where you were trying to get your way and it wasn't working, or somebody else was trying to push their will on you. These are all things that are going to come back around at the time of this eclipse or near the time of this eclipse on the 29th. And this isn't just going to be on the 29th. There's going to be many activations coming up, especially after Venus and Mercury station to go direct and then move forward and hit these points again later on in a couple of months. And so this is an ongoing saga where it's not over until it's over. And just because this is the final eclipse in Aries, it doesn't mean that everything is resolved right now. It means that there was a beginning where something came up, and that would have happened not just on March 1st, but March 15th when Mercury stationed to go retrograde, also right on the eclipse point. And then there's this period here where everything is amplified and it just gets very heated up. And then we have this period of resolution. And so you'll start to feel things move in the right direction around the time that these planets station to go direct. And so the next eclipse activations, which happen to be activating the point of the total blood moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, these are going to be happening when Mercury stations to go direct on the 7th of April and when Venus stations to go direct on the 12th of April. So this is the first time where it's like, oh, now things are starting to move in the right direction. But the issues that come up around the time of this eclipse, the big changes, the big endings and new beginnings that are going to be really prominent right now, they won't fully resolve until Mercury and Venus hit this eclipse point, the 9-degree, 10-degree eclipse point in the sign of Aries for the final time. And so for Mercury, that's going to be happening on March 26th. And so with Mercury, we had a station on this eclipse point on March 15th. There was something that came up in terms of a message, a download, an idea that really had a massive karmic impact, a massive fated impact that's going to lead you deeper into your destiny through letting go of something old that no longer serves you, that you've been really wanting to move forward with, wanting to head into for way too long. It's kind of like an 18-month or even 2-year energy of pushing forward into something. And you needed to do the thing. Like you needed to actually go through the motions and push yourself into the thing that you were feeling so obsessed about. But now that you're at this point, you need to let it go. Even if it doesn't feel like it's fully resolved, you're realizing now that that was for a reason, but now it's time to initiate something new. Now it's time to build in a new area of life. And so Mercury would have given you some intel, some insight into what that means for you on or around the 15th of March. And it's going to come back around again. So that Venus energy from the 1st, that Mercury energy from the 15th will come back around again around the time of this eclipse. This eclipse, because it is a partial solar eclipse, it's kind of medium in terms of its intensity, strength, and impact on our day-to-day lives. And so we will feel it. It will do things, but it's not going to be this like big exaggerated energy all at once. It's going to be something that is ongoing with these activations. And so you'll learn about strength of eclipses and how to understand like the orb or the window of influence and the eclipse activation periods in my Karmic Power of Eclipses workshop, which a lot of you are already joining me for, and I hope to see more of you there. But for the purpose of this video, the solar eclipse, this one is more medium. So I would say the biggest, most potent energies are just maybe 5 days before, 5 days after. And it's really these activations and reactivations though. So there's something coming up this week and into next week that's like, oh, okay. Now I'm seeing something clearly. Like there's something that's been eclipsed that has been preventing you from finally moving on from that thing that you thought that you needed to do, or that you've been pushing for, and you realize, oh, now this is needing to be directed, this energy, this intention, into a brand new area of life. So it is an ending because this is the last eclipse in Aries. But it's a new beginning also, because this is showing us like where we're spanning the boundaries, like what we did in the lead up to the nodes shifting signs in January, what we did for the last 2 years in the Aries area of our lives and charts, which we'll talk about in the All Signs Forecast. This is now going to serve us in moving forward with our destiny in a completely different area of life. It might seem unrelated at first, but you're going to realize that the lessons you learned, the things that you grew, the things that you accomplished, this is going to be carried forward in a different way. And the resolution, the full resolution for all of this, where everything finally like is just done and resolved, this doesn't happen until May 14th. And this is going to be the period when Venus not just stations, but where Venus is direct and hits that eclipse point for the final time. That's where your relationships come into balance. That's where the value systems that came up for you, the things that you value, the things that bring you joy, the things that you are reflecting on around March 1st, it finally all makes sense. Like what's happening, why this is happening, it finally reaches this point of resolution. And so that's the timeline there. In terms of the eclipse itself, there is a really strong conjunction to Mercury, which is combust. And so there is still an energy here where until Mercury stations to go direct on the 7th of April, and especially until Mercury hits that point of the eclipse on March 26th, it's not going to fully make sense because there's something here that our brain can't really understand, or there's something that's being occulted or eclipsed in terms of information or an understanding that we need in order to fully move forward. The other things that are going on here though are quite nice. So Mercury is actually getting a little bit of help from Jupiter. It's, a wide sextile. I won't count it as being the best thing ever, but it is, technically a little bit of reception from Jupiter, which is in the sign of Gemini, which is Mercury ruled. And so we have this Mercury helping out Jupiter situation going on here. So whatever is going on with this eclipse is going to help you or benefit you or support you in a different area of life. And so we'll talk about that in the forecast. And obviously Pluto's in the mix too, and it's bringing a really powerful transformation where whatever is going on right now is helping to transform or alchemize something in your life. So you're going to come out of this much stronger and better off for it. And so in terms of this eclipse, I don't hate it. Like the last eclipse, I didn't hate either. I was like, okay, this is a lot, but it's not the worst energy. They've both been very supported by other planets in the configuration for the eclipse. And the issue is that it just feels like we're stuck in a hamster wheel because these energies just keep repeating over and over and over again because of the retrogrades. Like these retrogrades stationed to go retrograde on this eclipse point, the one that's happening on March 29th, the Aries eclipse point, and then they're going to station to go direct on or near the Pisces point that is opposing the Virgo eclipse, which is part of the eclipse because a lunar eclipse is when the sun opposes the moon. So it's hitting where the south node was, where the sun was. And so all of this is significant. It's like this ongoing thing where it's just dragging on and we're like, can this just be done yet? Not quite yet. There's a reason it's taking so long. There's a reason we have to come back to it. And that will become very apparent as we move into April and especially into May. So that is the general forecast. Now let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs. Make sure you listen to your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign, of course, as always, to get a more holistic overview for the energy of this entire eclipse season and all throughout, even into May, as we've discussed in the first part of this video. This is a big one. It's a long one. You're going to want to pay attention. You're going to want to listen to all three signs to really lock into what's going on here. Your rising sign, of course, is the most predominant energy. Your sun sign will be secondary, and your moon sign is important to listen to as well, although this energy will be more internalized and subjective. And if you want to get an even deeper dive into what's going on for you to understand your chart even better and these forecasts that I provide for you every couple of weeks here, you want to download my Astrology 101 quick reference guide. It's 100% free. This will help you work through your chart and understand your placements. So you'll know, maybe even though you don't have your big three sun, moon, or rising in Aries, maybe you have a stellium there. Maybe you have Mercury and Mars there. Maybe you have other planetary energies that are being impacted more so by this eclipse that you need to pay attention to. All right, so let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning, of course, with Aries and Aries rising. So for Aries and Aries rising, you've been put through the ringer for the past couple of years. Your whole life has been subject to a major change, transition, and transformation. There's something that came up for you in your relationships at the start of March that is coming back around. And there's also a big message that came through for you, Aries, around the 15th of March, so around the middle of March, that's coming back around, and it's going to make a lot more sense. You're going to not be able to understand it necessarily in a logical way, but you're going to have support support in understanding it deeply, internally, intuitively. It's going to be more like a visceral feeling or a visceral understanding that something about this needs to change or transform, or that the direction that you're moving into is for a reason, even if you can't logically understand or see that reason at this time. This is where all of the hard work that you've been putting in when it comes to reinventing yourself, when it comes to changing who you are, when it comes to focusing on your needs, your self-interest, and when it comes to changing your life in so many ways, because you've probably come out of this past couple of years a completely different person. This is leading to something, and right now you're leading into this period of, okay, I'm finalizing this, I'm finishing this. I don't feel like I'm done working on myself, but I need to take a break. It's time for rest. It's time for contemplation. It's time for spiritual exploration. It's time to focus on my inner world instead of my outer world. And that's a big part of what this eclipse energy is doing for you right now. You'll be supported at the time and around the time of this eclipse, and also with the other activations we talked about at the start of this video. So check that for the timing, but you'll be supported by the people that you surround yourself with. You're going to be supported by your community. You're going to be supported by your friends, your group associations, your networks, your tribe. There are others who are going to come in and bring messages, bring help, bring support, so that way you can get through this and understand it much more clearly. And they're going to be a big part of your transformation moving forward. And then for Taurus and for Taurus rising, this new moon partial solar eclipse in the sign of Aries is happening in your 12th house, which is the house of endings. You've been going through a lot of big endings over the past couple of years, Taurus. I mean, you're going through a major shakeup in general, just in terms of who you are, the way you show up in the world, a lot of different areas of life, especially if you are a Taurus sun, moon, or rising anywhere from 20 to 30 degrees. You've been through the ringer in a lot of different ways. But these eclipses have been kind of pulling you more toward focusing on your internal world, focusing on your spiritual practices, focusing on your dreams, focusing on solitude, seclusion, rest, like focusing more on what's going on behind the scenes instead of out in the world. And that period is coming to an end. It might be welcomed, like you might have been forced into more seclusion. You might have been forced to be spending time alone, to get yourself together, figure out who you are and what you need in terms of your social interactions. And now is a time where you're kind of done with that. It might feel like it's not ending and you're like, God, I just want to get myself back out there. Or it might feel like, no, I'm not ready yet. I don't want to come back into the world. Either way, it's time. And so you're going to be coming into some fated, karmic, very important new connections now and into the next year and a half, where these people, it's going to feel like deja vu. It's going to feel like you already know them. It's going to feel like you were supposed to be connected with these people in this lifetime, because you are. And that period of restoration, that period of solitude, that period of going inward, it was preparation for you to be ready for these new connections that you need in your life. And then for Gemini and Gemini rising, for Geminis, this new moon is happening in your 11th house. You've been going through a period of major change and transformation when it comes to your social circle over these last couple of years, and that's coming to an end. And so there might be some final things that you need to look at and reflect on, people you need to bring back into your life, people you need to resolve, like these karmic cycles that keep coming through time and time again with, so you can move on finally. And this entire period of 2 months, like March and April, it's really showing you that. It's showing you where you need to cut this out, like end this cycle and move on. And who's there to support you? Who are your benefactors that are going to help you get to the next level when it comes to your big goals and dreams that you want to achieve out in the world, the impact you want to make through your career or otherwise? That's a big part of this too. Like, who are you bringing with you when you up level and when you get to the next stage of your success? That's a big factor here. And you're going to be supported by a lot of different things going on here, but really you're supporting yourself in this. So, you're going to have a lot of really incredible benefits that come to you through your connections and your social connections, but you have to take advantage of those opportunities right now and act on them and create some of your own opportunities out of that space. And the other thing too, with these new connections that you have that are very fated, very karmic, you're going to really be taking with you the ones that are aligned with your deeply held value systems and belief systems. And there's a transformation going on at the end of this month. And really, again, all through March and April, when it comes to your social circle, you're finalizing who you're bringing with you and what karmic connections were just there for a reason to take you in a new direction. So for Cancer, this new moon partial solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, the final one is happening in the 10th house. You are moving on from focusing so much on growth and change and transformation when it comes to your work, when it comes to your career, when it comes to the impact that you're making out in the world. And now it's time to kind of focus a little bit more on your belief systems, your value systems, the things that hold deeper meaning in your life, the reason why you even do the things that you're doing out in the world. And so there's something here that's not done yet, though. There could have been an important message that came through. There could be something you're confused about. There could be something that you want to keep going forward with, but you really need to move on from when it comes to your career and public reputation, so you can align what you're doing more clearly and more closely with your value systems moving on. Or maybe so you can approach like a higher educational institution. You can like get some additional education. You can find that teacher you've been looking for, or maybe so you can travel and just explore and expand your horizons. There's something here where it's like you don't want to let go of it yet, but also you do, and it won't end. There's a push and a pull going on in the area of career. And so you might need to bring something back in from the past. You might need to let go of a repeating cycle in your career that's leaving you feeling stuck. And this is going to benefit you immensely moving forward, because this chapter is done. You're moving on to something new. And then for Leo and for Leo rising, this new moon partial solar eclipse in the sign of Aries is happening in your 9th house. This is a beautiful eclipse for you, Leo, and the eclipses have been treating you probably a lot more kindly over the past couple of years, maybe up until recently. But this one is a big one because you're moving on from this period of exploration, this period of growth, this period of really following this thread when it comes to a belief system, a value system, some higher learning that you've been obsessing over and obsessed with for a couple of years now. And you want to keep following that thread, but really you need to kind of move on to something else, something a little deeper, something a little bit more intense. And so it could also be that you were going through a period where you could have been traveling more, you could have been exploring more, you could have been teaching more. That could be a big one. And it's kind of like, okay, where do I go from here? Now it's time to focus more on your finances and growing your finances and investing your money and your resources and getting your ducks in a row there, because there's going to be a lot of turbulence, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of just really interesting, unexpected energy that's going to pull you into a new direction to create better systems with your money, to create better systems with your investments. And so you're focusing more on earthly things in a lot of ways. You could be focusing also on like deepening the esoteric knowledge and bringing it down to the occult level. That could be part of it too. But a lot of this to me, for most Leo risings, is like, all right, I've been out here in the world learning, growing, exploring, traveling, teaching, and now it's time to move on. And so there's something that came up around the 1st of March and around the 15th of March that is going to be getting bigger and more apparent, but you're not fully clear yet around the 29th of March. And things won't fully resolve and move forward until like April and May. And then for Virgo and for Virgo rising, this full moon partial lunar or solar eclipse in the sign of Aries is happening in your 8th house, which is the house of money, finances, joint finances through marriage, investments, debt, taxes, inheritance. All of these things are 8th house things. And you've been working really hard on getting your ducks in a row or moving in a brand new direction when it comes to the way you deal with your finances, probably due to a lot of financial turbulence, a lot of upheaval, a lot of ups and downs in that area where you've been taken in a whole new direction with the way that you deal with money over the past couple of years. And now is a time where you're like, all right, can this just be done? Can I just move on with this? But it keeps coming back around. There's something here that's not quite finished. And there's something that you're maybe not ready or fully ready to move on from until you go through this process of having these things come up again and again and again, these cycles. Like the thing that keeps coming up over and over again for you, the financial thing that keeps coming up for you over and over again, all through March, April, and May, that's the thing that you are being called to wrap up. This is a karmic cycle. This is a fated cycle. This is an evolutionary cycle that you are done with. Now it's a time to focus on something new. So once you have your financial ducks in a row, and especially joint financial ducks in a row, maybe even with your partner, you're going to be focusing more on partnership. Like you're going to be focusing more on developing and creating these very fated, very beautiful bonds with the people that you are meant to connect with on a romantic level, on a one-to-one personal level. Like this is where new connections are coming in that are very synchronistic. And you're not going to be able to fully embrace that until you've wrapped up this old cycle, which again will be fully done by May. And then for Libra and Libra rising, this energy is happening in your 7th house, which is the house of one-on-one romantic relationships. It's the house of marriage. Maybe you've been through a really fated, very evolutionary, very transformative experience in the area of relationships over these past couple of years. Maybe a new relationship has come in that's been very intense and very positive for you. Or maybe you've had to let go of a partnership in order to move into something different or to approach partnerships differently. There's something going on here, though, where it's kind of reaching its endpoint. This karmic dance you've been doing with your partner, this karmic dance you've been doing in partnership with other people, this negotiation or ongoing situation maybe that's been going on with someone on a legal standpoint even. This is reaching its expiration date, but you can't quite let it go yet. There's a big message that came through or something really important involving your relationships at the start of March that might have come back around through a message or an insight on the 15th or around the 15th of March that's coming back around again. And it's I need to figure out how to resolve this. Where am I? Where am I going with this relationship? Where am I going with my relationships in general? Once you wrap this up, you'll be able to move on and focus again on your work, on your day-to-day life, on your health, even if that's been suffering as a result of what's been going on here. There's something going on here though, where you really, it's you want to keep it going, but you also don't. And you're will this finally end at some point? It doesn't mean the relationship is going to end, but there's a situation in the relationship that maybe you need to fully resolve. This karmic energy where you keep repeating these patterns in your relationships and you're why does this keep happening? You'll figure out why, and you'll be able to cut that and let it go. Not right this second, but you're getting closer. It's going to last probably till the middle of May before you can fully move on from this and move on to something else. And then for Scorpio and Scorpio rising, this new moon, this solar eclipse in the sign of Aries is happening in your 6th house, which is the house of health, work, and daily routines. You have been so busy, Scorpio, so busy. And you're will this end? On a day-to-day level, will this resolve? I am so sick of this. There have been health issues that have come up. There have maybe been health issues with family members, health issues with pets even. A lot of different issues with pets could have come up for you. I know I'm a Scorpio rising. I have 30 different pets and it's been a lot over these past couple of years that's come up. And it's okay, can we be done with this? Can we resolve it? Can we move on? Can we focus on the things that are joyful and that bring me happiness finally? And the answer is yes, but not yet. There's some stuff that you still need to work on. And if you've been dealing with health issues as well, basically whatever has come up for you, big important messages, reflections, really big revelations, ideas that have come through for you throughout March and now into April and May around your health, around your work and your day-to-day work routines, around your employees and coworkers, and around your animals, if that's applicable to you, and around the health of other people or a caregiving role if you're taking that on. It's you want it to end, but you also don't. It's finally starting to wrap up. You're finally starting to see it clearly. This eclipse is going to push it forward. And by May, you're going to be okay, we're done with this. We're on to something new. And you're going to be focusing way more on the things that bring you joy, happiness, pleasure, the things that you do because you love to do them. This is about shifting from your obligations to the things that you love, that are not obligatory, that you do them because they bring you joy. And then for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, This new moon partial solar eclipse in the sign of Aries is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of joy, which is the house of passion and pleasure, which is the house of romance. It's also the house of procreation and children. There could have been a lot of energy around all of these topics and themes coming up for you over the past couple of years. There could have been a focus on really wanting to create a system or create a situation for yourself where you are able to follow your passions, where you are able to do the things that bring you joy. And you're like, when can I finally get there, right? It's also a little bit of a more grounding energy. It's kind of like I'm actually moving on from this. I've been having fun. I've been playing. I've been exploring these new avenues. Maybe I had a kid and now you need to focus on like laying down roots. You need to focus on, okay, what do I want when it comes to what goes on behind the scenes? What do I want my home life to look like? What do I want my living situation to look like? What do I want my family life to look like? And until you resolve and wrap up this quest for your own enjoyment, this indulgence in your own pleasure, this ambition to like do the things that you're passionate about, until you wrap up this saga, which is not fully there yet, it's going to fully be wrapped up in May. You're not going to be able to create what you need to create fully, which is part of your soul's evolution. Like there's a big change going on with your home and your family life, and that needs your focus. Like it needs to be your focus, and it will be. But right now you're a little split. And again, that's going to resolve, but just pay attention to what's coming up for you over and over again in terms of these cycles. Like, I want this, but like the universe is like, okay, but no, this is done. And then for Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this new moon, partial solar eclipse in the sign of Aries is happening in the 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property, and real estate. You might have had a lot of big shifts in your family dynamics over the past couple of years, Capricorn. You might have had big shifts in your home life, big shifts in your living situation. You might have moved even, or had to change something up about your home life for like your career goals, or as a result of something going on with your career or changes there. There's a big shift in your dynamics that have happened there though, where it's finally coming to a close. Like maybe you've been buying property or investing in property even. That could be part of this too. Whatever it is for you, there's something that came up at the start of March where you're like, all right, this is the thing. And then middle of March, you're like, I don't really know what's going on here. I got like a new message that came in, and now it's coming back up for you again. Like there's something that you need to finalize. There's a repeating cycle or a repeating pattern that's very karmic, involving maybe your ancestry, your family lineage, your family in general, or your home and living situation where you're like, okay, I think I'm done with this. I would like it to be done now, please. And it can't fully be resolved because there's information that you don't have. There are things that haven't been wrapped up, loose ends that haven't been tied. Once they are tied, you can focus more on your intellectual development. You can focus more on creating a sense of community. You can focus more on communication and relationships. You're going to be focusing less on your immediate family and more on like your connection to other people, your tribe, your community even. You could be focusing on additional education and pursuing additional education. You can be focusing more on travel. Maybe you've been stuck at home because there's been so much going on there. But you can't do it until this is fully over, and it'll fully make sense to you why you had to go through this process when we get to the middle of May. And then for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this new moon partial solar eclipse in the sign of Aries is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of community. It's the house of extended family. It's the house of short distance travel, vehicles, modes of transportation. And there might have been a lot that's come up for you around these things where there have been big changes in your commute. There have been big changes in your community. There have been changes in terms of your neighbors. There have been changes in terms of travel and like fated travel that's come up for you. Maybe there have been changes in terms of your mindset due to additional knowledge or education. Maybe you've been focusing a lot on blogging or content creation or marketing even, because these are all 3rd house topics and themes. There's something that has come up for you throughout the month of March that is going to be coming back around at this eclipse, and it's not fully going to be resolved until April and May, where there's a repeating cycle here. It could be like a repeating pattern with your siblings. It could be a repeating pattern or an old pattern where you thought you needed to go in this direction with like your work, your teaching, like your writing. You needed to go in this direction with your travel. You needed to buy this vehicle even, where you were stuck on this, you were fixated on this, and now you're realizing I need to let go of this actually. And this cycle needs to complete. The cycle will fully complete again in May, and you're going to be moving on to focusing more on earthly matters, financial matters, really getting your ducks in a row when it comes to your money and your material situation. That's going to be so important. It's going to feel tough at the beginning because Saturn's in the mix in your second house with the North Node. It's bringing very karmic, very, tense kinds of lessons. But once that Saturn moves on, you're going to have this like beautiful freedom because you've created this foundation and you did the initial work. And you can't quite get there though until you wrap up this third house stuff. And so that will be wrapped up again in May, but it's coming up for you in a big way at the time of this eclipse. And then finally for Pisces and Pisces rising, this new moon partial solar eclipse in the sign of Aries is happening in your second house, which is the house of money, finances, material possessions. There's been a lot of change going on for you, Pisces, when it comes to your finances and when it comes to the way that you're dealing with your finances. This is the end of an old cycle where something's come back up and you're like, I need to do it this way. I need to do it this way. And then you're like, but is this really aligned with my values? And maybe you got a message that came through or like a clear insight where you're like, you know what? I need to deal with my financial situation in a completely different way. I maybe don't need to buy this thing. I maybe need to sell this thing. I maybe need to start this type of account. I maybe need to close these investments. And it's making you realize that the way that you're dealing with your money, that you've been dealing with your money these past 2 years is not going to continue on or work for you moving forward. And so now's the time to shift. Now's the time to move in a different direction. And you're not going to fully know what that looks like because it's kind of like you're still holding on to it a little bit. The eclipse will make you let it go. It's going to be like, okay, I'm done. But you won't be able to fully move on from these lessons, these financial lessons, until April, May, when we have these final planetary activations of this eclipse. And once we do, you're going to be focusing more on you. You're focusing on what you're doing, your wants, your needs, your desires. There's going to be major transformations and upheavals going on that are going to throw you in a brand new direction that's aligned with your destiny. It'll be turbulent, but it'll be so worthwhile. And you're going to be glad that it's happening, especially once it's done. Maybe right now, not so glad because Saturn's helping, but as we get deeper into these next eclipse cycles, as we get into the fall, you're going to be glad that it's happening. But in the meantime, get your ducks in a row financially. Like there's something that needs to be closed up. There's a cycle that needs to end here. And it's coming up again and again. And you're like, can I just end this? It's not done because there's steps to it or stages to it or information even that you don't have yet, but it's close. It's close. Just keep slowly working toward it and you will get there, Pisces. All right. And so that is my forecast for all 12 signs. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like it, subscribe to my channel, comment below and let me know how these eclipses and retrogrades have been impacting you. I know they've been wild on my end, so I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing that too. And make sure you share this video with a friend if you feel like they can benefit from the information I share with you today. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.